What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Passion Fruit Podcast. Today, we have the amazing Lynn G with us today. She is the CEO of AEG Ambassador Education Group, and we are so lucky to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Yes, so Lynn, you are the Jacqueline of all trades. You pretty much do it all, and you've got this incredible background. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Well, Ambassador Education Group is what I want to highlight here. So we are a education group based in Thailand. We have 5 schools that are K through 12. 3 are international, 2 are bilingual, and then we have 1 group of like language tutoring, sort of similar to Kumon style schools. And we just try to serve the Thai people and get the education going and make sure that Thai people and Thai kids can go on to go to college anywhere.
I love that. I know that you guys are a very mission and value focused organization. So tell me a little bit more about what you guys stand for.
So our little slogan or vision is called Creating Together, where we are a school, and even though, yes, of course, we're a school in Asia, so we have to be extremely academically focused, we are also trying to get people to think outside the box a little bit more. So that is a bit more niche.
Yeah.
As we know, that is important for any business. That's where we can find our success. And so that's where we've been able to kind of differentiate ourselves from other schools in the area.
I love that. And I think one thing that you shared with me in the past is the fact that you guys are such a opportunity-driven organization.
Yes.
I think that is such a beautiful thing, because a lot of the times when you hear stories about education in Asia per se, right? It doesn't really give kids, we don't hear stories about like the freedom to think outside of the box. And so how does AEG put programs in place and these quote unquote opportunities in place to stimulate that creative imagination with your students?
You know, it's schools in Asia for sure, because of the whole stereotype, right, of straight A's and things like that, but it's honestly schools everywhere. And the pedagogy of, we need to create these students to be workers.
Yeah.
And if you look at the American public school system, created by, the Rockefellers, who famously say, I am in the business of making workers and not thinkers.
That's right.
It's the sort of thing that's been adopted, and that's why we end up with this sort of 9-to-5, retire, see the world when you're 60 mindset. And while that's great and that's good for some people, it's not the only option. And it really discredits people who think in a different way and kids who are more creative and express and learn in a different way. So yeah, there's definitely things that we try to do and opportunities we try to create, a lot of different clubs, and it's an international school. So we have a lot of students who are from all over the world. We have 67 different nationalities, and that in itself is such a beautiful learning experience.
For sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of the, I honestly feel like, which is a hot take because I'm an educator, but if you wanted to have the exact catered education for your child, and let's say religiously they learn whatever you want them to learn and they read all the exact books you want them to learn, you could just homeschool them.
Right.
But the social aspect is such an important part of school, which the experience and those opportunities are exactly why we pour so much into them, so that these kids can have opportunities to travel to other countries or play golf and in these international tournaments and things like that.
Right. You mentioned to me last time we spoke that you guys just hosted a tournament in, was it Singapore or was it Thailand?
It was in the north of Thailand, in Chiang Mai, where we actually have a lot of incredible golfers. And we opened it up to schools in Taiwan, Bali, Cambodia, Vietnam, and they all came, and it was a really great experience. It was some of the first times that the students from those places traveled outside their country, because they were as young as 13, 14.
Wow.
and was able to cooperate in this way. And we had a charity gala before where we raised money for sustainability, as we have a lot of sustainability efforts and ESG goals that we're trying to reach this year as well. So I just kind of thought 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing. And yeah, so a lot of really great things like that. And just showing kids that they don't have to be put in a box. I mean, I'm 30, but in the time that I grew up, it was very much in the time of cliques, and shows like Mean Girls was a thing, and High School Musical, and everything was so like, you're a nerd, you're a jock, you're this, you're that. And I was like, well, what if I like science and I love biology, but I also am so passionate about art, but I also am the captain of my volleyball team, but I'm also president of my class, like student council. I love all that nerdy stuff, you know, and I really didn't care to be made fun of for, oh, you're too this and you're too that, but because I think that's what we're trying to do here, say, hey, you can be all of these things, and you can look a certain way and have the interests that you do, and go for it.
That's such a beautiful philosophy, because I know growing up as an Asian American and the eldest daughter of immigrant parents, I was prescribed a way of being, right? I was prescribed to either be a doctor, politician, or lawyer. That's what my dad wanted. He had 3 girls, so he wanted one of each, right? And everything that he did in terms of extracurricular activities, in terms of school districts that he moved us to, he did everything to try and get us to conform to that, and to input all of these, I guess, data points for us to absorb, so that it then materializes into the outcome that he wanted. And it's so funny, none of us ended up choosing to
like
be
a corporate job, like in that same way. I think that you have to credit the stereotypical Asian parent for doing everything and sacrificing so much, and I do appreciate that about mine as well. But yes, that is something, as someone who owns schools in Asia, that we constantly have to fight against. That's one of our biggest challenges is, hey, we're also going to encourage your child to go out for drama or do this science fair thing or volunteer and a lot of, you know, social impact, a lot of things of giving back. It's a huge part of what we want to do as educators, is not say, hey, you need to go donate or whatever, but have the kids come up with these projects and commit to it themselves. Yes. Thank you. And it's our philosophy to grow the entire student, be creative and create with the entire child, and not just see them as, you know, a robot that can take standardized tests.
Right, yeah.
I think that's really important to appeal to all of the things. So we have morals classes, and we even have classes for parents, like parenting classes as well.
Wow.
There's a lot of things. While yes, the education part is cool, and you know, reading and science and math, all very important, great things. There's so many things about this work that I find so much more important, like even dark things like child safeguarding. As you know, Thailand, it's a part of the world where there's really dark things like child sex trafficking and all these things. So being able to implement and working with companies that, you know, take care of things like that, where in place of social work, social workers, you know, need more support in the States, anywhere. But in Thailand, we have a sort of lack in that department as well. And so we work with other companies that will come and sort of take the place of a social worker, where they'll come and make sure that our kids are safe, and if there's any incidents where a child comes to school hurt or under any of these guidelines, it'll immediately be looked into. And yeah, it's been a journey, but implementing all of those things, as well as providing more opportunities for kids to do fun things, and sustainability efforts, where now the kids have their own garden, sustainability garden, and we want to do like a farm to table dinner where, you know, the little kids will water the plants, and working it into the curriculum with the elementary school kids, you know, learning about photosynthesis,
Right.
and then the older kids working with local Thai chefs to prepare the meal and turn it into a nice big fancy dinner for their parents. Like, just like fun community building things. I think
That's
it's really
awesome.
important.
So I heard that you guys have been in talks with the Australian consulate to kind of develop some programs that are in line with what you just described, like culinary programs where kids get to learn from, was it Cordon Bleu? Yeah, tell me about that.
So the Australian consulate has been amazing to work with, and they have been nothing but helpful in wanting to bring Thai students over to Australia. And a lot of Thai people who have gone over to Le Cordon Bleu or to study in Australia have had amazing results. So they were telling us about one of the girls that they recruited from Thailand to go to college in Australia, and she was now the owner of Canva, which is the developer of Canva. And all of these Michelin star chefs in some of the best eateries in Bangkok and best patisseries have come from there. So they keep coming back to Thailand saying, hey, when your kids graduate and they're showing a lot of promise, send them to us, and this is what we want to do with them. So yes, we want to do a nutrition day. As a big fitness nerd, nutrition is very important to me. So I'm very hands-on with these things, where when I was there last month, I was walking on campus and I saw one of the schools were giving Oreos away for lunch, and I was like, no, not on my watch, you know? Like I just am really sort of particular about these things, because I feel like it should be a trickle down sort of thing in leadership of, if you really believe something and you go to your workplace and it's not reflecting, then there's something that needs to be changed.
I agree.
Like, if you take ownership and stewardship of what you've built, you see a piece of trash on the ground, you never say, that's not my job.
Exactly.
You pick it up. And if you see Oreos being given away at lunch, you don't say, that's not my job. You say, all right, we're immediately going to remedy this situation. So working with the Australian consulate to do a nutrition day, and it's going to be some Australian food brands that are healthier and coming in, and we're working with some really amazing Thai celebrities who are really into fitness, and they're going to come talk to the kids about, you know, the importance of it and everything. So
That's amazing.
Just really fun projects like that.
Why don't we have these programs here in the US? Like, I feel like there needs to be more of it. In public schools, it's just not something that's offered.
I think it's just so, it's there, it's just so inaccessible. So there are things too that, you know, America does so well that I'm desperately trying to get over there, such as special education. This is a very touchy subject, but I'm actually going to the University of Oregon next week to work with some specialists there. And they are so passionate about this that they are uprooting their lives in Oregon and moving to Thailand to come develop this special needs program with me and with my team. Because in Asia, in Thailand, it's still quite taboo thing to talk about, because there's things like reincarnation, and it's not right, but it's just this very outdated way of thinking of, if my child has any sort of learning disability, I'm just not going to send them to school because it means that they did something wrong in a past life or something really horrible like that. And as a result, we have a whole country that just rejects this idea. And then when they do have special ed programs, they don't advertise it because they don't want to be known for it. For me, it's like, well, why not, right? Even from a business standpoint, you see this hole in the market, why would you not want to jump on it? And then from a human standpoint, you see these kids who need this, and how could you reject them from your school and not look and work and claw your way into finding a way to help them?
Exactly.
Because it's not wrong, it's not right to accept them and then not have a a way for them to actually learn. So the first time I pitched the special needs program curriculum thing was when I was 21. It was the first year that we started our first school, and I was kind of like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like, great, I just graduated from college in America and I'm going to start the special ed program, and the Ministry of Education is who we have to pitch it to. They were just like, no, like, let's not get into this yet. Like, this isn't possible. And okay, fair enough, I was really young and I didn't have a lot of experience yet, and it was taboo in the country. And now I'm 30, and I think out of all of the markers of success, I would say them now looking at what I've built this past few years and been like, actually, no, now, please run with this program, and you can do this now, and we trust you. That's like the only validation I really need.
Totally.
And it's so exciting because I could not do this on my own, not at all. Like, I really am so thankful, and I have so much trust in my team and the people who are sacrificing a lot to move over to come do this. So I think, yeah, we have a lot to look forward to in these next couple of years. But first, it's going to cost a lot, and it will not be accessible. That's just the honest truth. But it doesn't even exist yet.
Right,
and then,
exactly.
So just meeting with my team last week, we said, let's just make it available, and then we'll try to make it accessible later on. But yeah, still a long ways to go, but just really honored to be in the conversation of it.
You should be so proud of yourself because you're challenging a stereotypical taboo that an entire culture has been, I guess, you know, it's ingrained in that culture for so long, right? And I agree with that in so many ways that, like, yeah, when you see a gap in the market, why not go after it? And then from there, taking into account that you're doing like some of the most rewarding work out there, you know, like my sister, she's a behavioral therapist, and like it takes a special type of person to be able to do that kind of work and to influence an entire country's perspective on special ed education is just, that's so wow.
Thanks. I think it's the why was never to be, you know, the person recognized for doing that. It's just something that when I did my credentials in America and I did my student teaching, that was the classroom that I ended up in, and I was just blown away by how America was so good at this, and how even something so simple like wheelchair accessibility, you know, things like this seem so minute, and in America, you can think of it as spoiled, but it is just this place of, well, of course, we need to have that.
Right.
But in Asia, that's not that way. Right. So even fighting for small things, and even to design the campuses to be wheelchair accessible, that's already a win for us. And
totally.
So yeah, developing the actual buildings, it's a super fun part of it, but making it so that it cultivates this culture, right? And the community at the end of the day is so important. Like, it's not just a place where you drop off your kids at its daycare, right? We have a coffee shop on campus. We have all these clubs. We have all of these things that the parents can have, calls forth parent responsibility as well, which I think is super important. So you'll definitely have to come.
Yeah, I would love to see it. It sounds amazing, honestly. Unlike anything that I've ever seen here, that's for sure. Thanks. Yeah, that's very cool. So speaking of females in leadership, and I know that you touched on this in regards to telling your team, no, we're not doing Oreos anymore, we're going to remedy this ASAP. Yeah. So how has your experience been as a young female leader in your organization? Tell me about some of the struggles that you've had to overcome and your journey through it all.
Ooh, it's a humbling journey. It's just something that I've asked female mentors that I've had that have been, you know, who are 50, 60, and I say, when do people stop talking down to you? And they just smile. I mean, they say, never. Yeah. And it's okay. And it's okay. And that's not to victimize myself. I don't like to think of myself as a victim. It's just a truth of life. And it's just something that even men will experience if they look a certain way, or if they, you know, being talked down to is just a part of the human experience. And it's just all you have control of is your reaction. I think a very valuable lesson for me is to know that I didn't have anything to prove to anyone. I was at a funeral once where they said the only, a person, you know, talking at the funeral was saying, the only person you need to impress is your 8-year-old self and your 80-year-old self. And that really stuck with me for, you know, even though it was a really morbid setting, I still think about that. And that was years ago, of how would little me see me and how would older me see me. And it certainly wouldn't be when somebody challenges my authority to, you know, get it all in their face. That's quite juvenile. I think if somebody doesn't believe in you, all you need to do is have the evidence to support yourself, to say, it doesn't really matter what you think, because it doesn't really change the trajectory of my success or anything in the past that I've already done.
Right.
And that's a really good feeling. Nothing's really more validating than that.
It's so true.
But yeah, females in the industry just need to, I think, prepare themselves and just understand that, and know that it's not somebody's perception of you is like a reflection of them, and it's not to do with you and how you look. Just keep being yourself and being passionate and staying to your why. I think everyone has this why, like, why am I doing this? And I don't think anyone wakes up and says, I'm going to start a school so I can get rich. I think school, you know, education, having that real, true passion for education and seeing the importance of it, and considering myself a lifelong learner and somebody who's curious about everything all the time, just hungry for knowledge, I want that to reflect. But it's never been about, oh, I wonder if this will turn into some, you know, cash cow, because it just happens on accident. I think when the passion is there, and then even if it didn't, the passion would still be there. And when you have that really strong drive, I think it's really easy to not get tired and not feel, you know, I mean, there's moments of discouragement and moments of feeling like I might burn out, but it's like exactly what they talk about, where it seems a little cheesy, but it's the thing that gets you up in the morning, where you're like, this is actually great. Every time I've just landed in one country and they say, hey, you need to fly again in this amount of time, I have to take a breath and then do that mindset shift of, I have to fly again, I get to fly again. Totally. How amazing is it? I get to do this so I can work towards this passion that I have and really have this high social impact where I can earn a living and make myself proud. So just, yeah.
Totally. And I love what you just said there, is the shift in mindset into not that you need to go somewhere, but you have the opportunity to go somewhere, because it changes the way that you look at everything in life, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think one thing that I wanted to touch on was burnout. And I think so often me, myself, and other entrepreneurs are constantly trying to juggle everything and then some, right? The question that I get asked the most is, how do you balance it all, and how do you remain centered through all of the chaotic madness that's going around and surrounding running your own business?
I think it's very difficult to do, and I fail at it constantly, which is the only way that every time I fail, I say, well, I can't keep doing that. Right. So looking for signs of burnout for me is only possible when I know what grounds me. If the more I know who I am and have a stronger sense of self, the less likely I am to burn out. So burning out for me looks like acting out of character in the way of watching a lot of TV, which I never do, or talking about people more than I'm talking about my goals or what I'm excited about. And right. And I know that that's when I'm not truly being myself. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta do things that make me feel like me, which for me, anything to where I'm creating, I feel like myself. So whether it's creating in cooking, in baking, and I mentioned this to you before, like I will schedule time in my Google Calendar to bake or cook or paint or play the piano or something, like any creative outlet that I have, I will put it in there and say, no, you're not going to go to a social event, you're not going to network, you're not going to be productive, you're just going to do the thing that makes you know that you're still yourself. And a lot of people, I think, need rest, and everyone needs rest, but rest and sleep and not moving for me isn't the remedy for burnout.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Creativity is the remedy for burnout for me. Like I will infinitely feel way more refreshed if I paint something or cook something, a meal for my friends, do a yoga flow.
Totally.
It really energizes me way more than a nap ever could. And that's not everyone, but I didn't, just knowing yourself in that way.
I think that's so great because we are Ferrari engines that run at 120 miles on the regular, right? Going local roads at 120 miles per hour. But you are the one that needs to decide what engine fuel to put in, right? And the engine fuel that works for me might not work for you, right? It's up to you as the individual to decide, but it's also really important to be able to measure when you're completely depleted and catch yourself before you run to ground zero.
Yeah, I love the car analogy, and I've explained it in a food analogy of it's really important that you don't listen to everybody, because people, and we do it too, it's a very human thing to project what we want and how we're feeling. So people are always telling me, slow down, you're doing too much, you're overly productive. But for me, I like my plate this full.
Me too.
And so I know how hungry I am. I like my plate this full, and I want to eat. And so I am the only one that needs to know when that plate is getting too full. And someone else can't tell me take something off.
Exactly.
Or put something on. And I would never say that to somebody else too, as long as I feel like they truly know themselves.
Totally.
Yeah.
So Lynn, tell me about all the sustainability efforts that you guys are spearheading around education.
So Thailand, like many countries in that area, are tourist destinations, right? And then oftentimes you see places like Bali or some of the southern islands of Thailand where the tourism is growing faster than the island knows how to take care of it. So really important that the thing that we need to do is educate people. Hey, you can't actually continue to throw trash in the ocean, just hope it goes away, or the river, And there is actually no formal education around it intentionally. So we have found ways to work it into the curriculum with reading, with different events. And the golf tournament we had was, the charity that we supported was a nonprofit that I'm on the board of with my friend who's a nature conservationist. And it's to support sustainability efforts in Thailand, and especially when it comes to creativity in kids. So we want to come up with creative solutions for kids to help aid sustainability, So it's not just like, okay, the kids will plant a tree, but the kids on this one island, for example, made a video that's showing on all the ferries that go from island to island of tourists how to take care of your island. So reef safe sunscreen, and don't do this and don't do that. And so they were the ones that made the video, and it's playing on the ferries and things like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so just, again, the creativity aspect, but also the sustainability aspect. And implementing things like having a huge plot of land where the kids can come and plant all of these really yummy vegetables, and they harvest it together, and working with local chefs to come prepare farm-to-table dinner that's completely vegan for the parents.
Wow.
Just like making it fun. The whole thing is to gamify it for kids. If it sounds kind of not that fun, we want to make it fun for them.
Right.
And we don't want to do it ourselves in the way that, hey, we're educators, we're not environmentalists. We want the kids to be the ones that care and to come and do it. And we just want to empower them and give them those tools. So it's not just sustainability, we try to be a little more innovative in a lot of different ways.
That's right. And I know that we previously had a conversation in regards to AI and how AI is going to affect the education system in the long run. Even actually in the short term, how have you seen it play a part in education?
It is just like everything else where we need to evolve with everything going on, right? So there was a time where they said, oh, you need to be able to do all this math because you won't always have a calculator in your pocket. And now we do. We have calculators in our iPhones and all these things, but it's still important that we understand math. And in that same way, AI is something that will only continue to develop and become more advanced. And while we shouldn't rely on it, it's still important for our kids to be able to work with it. So it's very much not a thing of rejecting the new and being afraid of it, but embracing it in a way that works. And something about AI that one of my favorite quotes about AI speaks on how AI is actually very useful in helping humans to do things that are very time consuming, so that humans can be left then to do the things that are the most human, right? Because what separates man from machine?
Imagination, creativity, emotion.
All of these things, and AI is a tool that should be used to create more time for that. Right. And that's something that our team is working very hard to have the students kind of work on. So right now we have about 5,000 students and growing, and for K through 12, and they all somehow have a little bit of it in their system. Maybe not the early years, but once you get to elementary school.
Very cool, very cool. I recently told my mother to download ChatGPT, and she's so funny. She was like, "No, I can't download it on my work computer. What if they're watching me?" Like,
oh my goodness.
She was like completely just. It was so foreign to her, And then it wasn't until I think like a week and a half ago, I showed her. I was like, "Mom, hop on a Google Meet with me. I'm going to show you how easy it is to use ChatGPT to help you write an email," which in the past it took her forever to, because Asian American, right. English is her second language, and then she would send it to me, have me proof, etc. I'm like, "Mom, you can just tell ChatGPT to write it for you, and I will never have to proof anymore."
It's so easy to see when it's ChatGPT,
I
think there is that thing with plagiarism, and like I said before, same way with the calculators and knowing math. It's when we stopped using libraries and relying on libraries, and we had Wikipedia and Cliff Notes, our teachers had to then figure out how to figure out what's plagiarism and what's not.
Right, how to mitigate all of it.
Yeah, and our teachers now are trying to figure out how to mitigate what's AI and what's not. But it's actually quite clear. So my parents actually also have discovered the wonders of ChatGPT, and like they now text me all of these things, that a parent would say to a child if the parent was a robot.
Right.
She's like, "Hello, I am going to the store today. The store used to be called," and I'm like, "Dad, did you ChatGPT this?" And he's like, "Yes, this is amazing. I don't have to do anything."
Yep, totally.
So it's fun for them, but it's actually quite clear to see.
Yes.
I think AI will be more of an issue when it comes to art. I think that is more of a convoluted topic, but in terms of education, it's actually very helpful for our teachers on that end. So on the teacher side, they're finding ways that it can be very useful as well.
For sure, yep. I interviewed a French professor at a luxury senior living retirement community because she had adopted AI into her curriculum to help teach other seniors French. And she was talking about how it was the best tool that she could possibly adopt for her classes because older adults learn through repetition, right? And because they can just play phrases over and over in like voice command, they were able to really like digest it and ingrain themselves in like the exact pronunciation of the French language. So it was interesting. And
there's ways to make it work for us. That's the whole point.
Totally. Cool. So moving on to the topic of self-care and finding out what it is that you need and when you need it. How did you figure all of this out? What led you to this point of such strong sense of self?
Trial and error, but mostly I've always had a very strong sense of self where peer pressure hasn't really gotten to me so much. If I want to do something, there's nothing that can stop me. But if I don't feel like doing something, you can't make me do it.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, which is why we're in the positions we're in. But I think self-care can also be seen and made to be marketed as face masks, get your nails done, spend a bunch of money, rot on the couch.
Right.
And that is not what I think self-care is, and I don't think that's the truest definition of it. If you really cared about yourself, you would do things like work out, do yoga, eat healthy, go to the gym, read books, care what goes into your mental diet just as much as your physical diet.
Totally.
Right? And I think that this gets overlooked quite a bit because people love to be comfortable. But when you look at all the things that make you slightly uncomfortable, that's where so much growth is happening. And for me, self-care is growth. It might not be everyone's definition, but I think when I feel like, hey, I did a yoga pose today that I normally can't do, or I ran a little further, or I just was a little bit better today than I was before, I am like, there's nothing that makes me feel more empowered, and like I really took care of myself, truly, in like a genuine, sustainable way.
I feel that. I can totally relate. I don't do well when I am static or just not moving. And people are always like, yeah, take the day to rest. Rest to me is not like anybody else's definition, you know, like rest to me is going out on the golf course and spending 4.5 hours trying to beat my boyfriend in golf, you know, because it's the same thing. It's the feeling of accomplishment, right? And I think that that's really what intrinsically drives me. And for individuals who need help finding what self-care looks like, I think what you said is amazing, right? Trial and error, because what refuels me, like we said earlier, may not refuel you. And I feel like it's such a cliche, just like you said, of these big beauty brands trying to prescribe self-care in a way that just is disguising vanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's productivity. Like the idea that productivity is not the same thing as self-care isn't true, but at the same time, productivity is also rest. Like it's all aligned, where it's actually productive to take rest. I think any fitness person knows this. It's counterproductive to push hard every single day all the time and not give your body time to recover, because you're gonna become more susceptible to injury. You're not going to be able to grow as fast, and just scientifically it's not as good for you as rest is productive in the form of physically moving less and breathing. And I say, actually, well, this is what got me into my yoga journey, because I was always so yang energy, if you want to look at it like that, where I was like, I have to run, and I was so focused on like calories, you know, all of that, and I have to lift heavy. Yoga says, you know, don't worry about that. And it's a mindful movement meditation where you're just thinking about, it's just you in that pose. And are you breathing? And my yoga class that I teach is very athletic. It's very difficult, sweaty, hot yoga. I notice the people who have the harder time in the slower part of it, where I start the class stretching slow. It's a very large mid part of heavy, hard flow, no breaks. And at the end, everyone just has to lay there for like a couple minutes. And some people cannot do those poses. Some people perfect every pose, but when it comes to the end, they fidget, their mind cannot turn off. And I am one of those people. So I'm not, I'm not hating on them, but it's just really important to say someone's struggle is not someone else's. And it's important to like really just know yourself. And if you do find yourself fidgeting a lot, be like, maybe I need this extra. Maybe I need to actually not choose the hardest option, because that's the harder thing for me to do.
Right,
you know?
100%.
So I think there's a lot of teachers in life, and yoga has just been one for me.
Yoga has been a big grounding activity for me, because I too was the same, restless, couldn't meditate, couldn't come into Zen, there wasn't a moment in my mind where I could stop thinking about something. My mind was always racing, and yoga really helped me center myself, ground myself, and just slow down. So it's such a beautiful thing that you are also a yoga instructor, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Yes. I know that we are running close to time, but I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your story. You are such an inspiration to the next generation of entrepreneurs, so keep doing your thing, girl. We're cheering for you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Passion Fruit Podcast is sponsored by Onyx Golf, Orange County's sickest indoor simulator venue. If you want to check out a 5-star Titleist training facility, come visit Onyx Golf, mention Passion Fruit Podcast for 20% off your first booking.